Take a deep breath in. And on the outward breath, close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, notice that you can pay more attention to the sound of my voice. Breathing in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just getting a sense that tension, stress, or anxiety is leaving your body in that outward breath. That's right. As you breathe in and breathe out, notice that on your outward breath, you can elongate that breath, allowing it to take slightly longer for your breath to leave your body. As you do so, notice that your next breath in is deeper than it was before, enabling you to breathe more of that resourceful feeling of relaxation in, and exhaling more of that tension that's leaving your body. I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine that you're lying in bed. It's at the end of the day. And I want you to focus your attention on the areas of progress that you've made in your life that day. I want you to think of the most important change that you want to make, and just reflect on those things that you've done that day that was a tiny incremental improvement on the day before. And perhaps you can just say these things to yourself in your mind's ear. Or perhaps they'll come to you as visual memories as you relive doing the thing that represented progress in that area. I also want you to reflect on what, with the benefit of hindsight, you would rather you didn't do that day. So I want you to think of one thing and imagine doing it, and then imagine rewinding it to before you've done it, and then imagine replacing it with what you would have rather have done instead. Not perfectly, but incrementally improving on what you actually did. Therefore, you can reflect on your wins, but learn from those areas of your life that have more opportunity for improvement. And maybe there's 2 or 3 things that you could rewind and replace with a version of you doing it as you would rather have done it. And then I want you to imagine the following day. I want you to think of all the different things that you could do that represents incremental progress. Perhaps you could eat slightly more foods that are high in water content, and that's progress. Even if you walked for just 1 or 2 minutes more than you normally do, or a few more steps, that's progress. Drinking more water or healthy teas, that's progress. I want you to imagine having slightly smaller portion on your plate, or perhaps not having a second helping, and that feels like progress. Maybe it's starting to eat later in the day or finishing earlier, and that's progress. I want you to accept the suggestion that there are so many ways that you could make tiny incremental progress, and imagine that you're doing those things the next day, actually being in your body and doing those things. If it's eating later, perhaps feeling that you're in your body, looking at a watch or a clock before you start eating, noticing that it's later than it normally would be. Or if it's finishing eating earlier in the day, again, seeing yourself notice the time. And progress could even be realizing that it's okay to fall asleep while you're still hungry. In fact, falling asleep when you're hungry is the best way to train your body to accept that you already have excess energy stored in your body fat cells. And when you sleep, your body enters a mild form of ketosis all by itself, starting to feed on your body fat cells, turning them into a form of energy in your blood that enables you to still have energy while you're sleeping, and giving you enough energy to enable you not to need breakfast if you don't want it. I want you to think that there are so many ways of making progress, that this game is winnable, that you're able to wake up the next morning feeling optimistic, that no matter what happens during the day, no matter how busy you are, how stressed you are, you know that you could make one or two key choices that represents incremental progress, that evolution. And most people think that if you make 1% improvement every day for a year, that you end up with a 365% improvement in your life. And that just isn't true. Because it's very hard to only make 1% improvement. The intention to make 1% improvement normally means you're making 2, 3, 4, 5% improvement. And that improvement gets built on the previous day's improvement, which builds on the previous day's improvement, which can create a snowball effect of momentum. That those tiny 1% improvements all add up. And I want you to create an image in your mind of the kind of things you could be doing 3 months from now. 3 months of tiny improvements. What could that be like? And what impact would 3 months of tiny improvements have on your body shape? Feelings of self-esteem and confidence, but the belief that you're now in control, that the steering wheel that hasn't been working is now working, and that sometimes you're in the fast lane and sometimes you're in the slower lane, but who cares as long as you're making progress? A day when you're making 1% progress is in the slow lane, and 2 or 3% progress is in a slightly faster lane. And there'll be certain days that you make 10 or 15% progress and you're in a faster lane. And these lanes are taking you into a future that is desirable for you. And I want you to think of something important that's happening in the future that you would like an improved body shape. Maybe a holiday, maybe a key event, a party, a celebration. And I want you to imagine that as you make these tiny improvements, improvements build on improvements, confidence builds on confidence, and things get easier and easier. And imagine these tiny improvements are taking your future to how you would want it to be. Perhaps see yourself on holiday wearing the clothes that you would want, in the body shape that you would want. Make that connected to these tiny improvements so that as you make these improvements, it feels that you're gravitating towards a future version of you, living life in the way you want to live your life. And if you've got that compelling vision of a future that is desirable and aspirational only to you, let me know by nodding your head. And realize that all of this comes from tiny incremental progress. I want you to imagine the biggest canyons, the biggest valleys, the largest rivers in the world. They came from tiny incremental differences over time. Erosion, the wind, the rain, tiny differences compounded over time created dramatic differences. And you can have the body that you want. You just can't have it instantly. So you are now unlocking your ability to, at any point in time, catch yourself in the moment and decide to do something different. No day is ever a lost day. No day is a write-off, because at any point in time you can make one choice, one decision, focus on one improvement, do one thing you normally wouldn't do, and that represents growth. That represents progress. And that takes your life towards this future that you aspire to have. Find yourself back there in your bed thinking about the plans, and realize that when the game is winnable, you want to play. And when the game isn't winnable, you don't want to play. And if you're ready to make a commitment to yourself to make plans that are achievable, winnable, that enable every day to give you the chance of making even just 1% progress, let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to think of something that you've either done today or will do today that will be the one thing that guarantees progress today. Make a commitment to yourself to do that thing. And decide where you need to be and what you need to do that. And realize that if you do that, you've already won. And if you don't, you can just do something else. It's time to return to the present as you listen to my voice, finding all parts of you there in the moment, in the present. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now. I'll count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. And when you awaken, you'll have a release of optimism and a deep-seated belief that progress is more important than perfection, and that you have all the resources necessary to make continued incremental progress in your life. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.